Thursday afternoon. Hello there. Good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We're on your digital terrestrial TV because we're free to air. You can get us live on DSTV channel 421, Gold TV channel 144. We are Joy News, independent, fearless and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, consider private enterprise as a career option. That's the advice to all personnel of the Nation Builders Corps program as President Akufo-Addo's flagship employment scheme officially terminates today. We'll get you details, plus a reaction to what the future holds for over 10,000 employees who are currently on the verge of going out of employment. We'll get you details. And Ghana to begin mining of iron ore to help realize government's vision of transforming the country into a steel manufacturing hub in the middle to long term. We'll get you an exclusive interview with the board chair of the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GISTEC, Alhaji Farouk Aliyu Mahama, here on The Pulse. Stay with us for that interview. And this afternoon as well, calls intensify for the recovery of funds and criminal prosecution of companies behind falsification of goods and content, as well as Joy News investigations reveal riots at the port. I am Blessed Suganda. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities, Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Remember, this afternoon, we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook. It's at Joy News on TV. Feel free to be a part of the show. I am Blessed Suganda. Welcome once again. Welcome to The Pulse once more. Consider private enterprise as a career option. That's the advice to all personnel of the Nation Builders Corps program as President Akufo-Addo's flagship employment scheme terminates today. Government in 2018 recruited over 100,000 young graduates to assist in the public sector service delivery needs of Ghana. However, after running an extended version of the contract since 2021, a new policy decision has been taken regarding the future of the NABCO trainees who will soon be out of employment. Of course, details of a final memo released to the trainees today urge NABCO personnel to take advantage of government's entrepreneurial program called the U-Start. Let's first of all bring you excerpts of that memo intercepted by Joy News, and you have that on your screens right now. It comes obviously addressed to the personnel first of all, and then it reads by first of all indicating that greetings to you as a NABCO beneficiary. Goes on to say that your time on the NABCO scheme has been valuable and impactful. As you exit the program, with wealth of experience, there's an added advantage to consider some private enterprise as a career option. Your skills development program will aid you, obviously, as an individual to progress under the entrepreneurial U-Start initiative to develop your ideas further into a viable business. Now, more information will be made available from NABCO and stakeholders in due course. Now, equally, on any outstanding stipends, expect a valid payment and notification via the same means after validation and verification in terms of your district and your MIP as well. Now, once all the funding arrangements are concluded for all who, of course, remained at post beyond October 2021, you'll be settled. And we understand that the concluding parts of that document you see right now, of course, we are all seeing it, indicates that we appreciate your time and growth while with us on the scheme and would like to extend our best wishes to you on your future career choice. So these are excerpts of the directive being issued to all NABCO personnel. But there's the big question as to what opportunities are available to personnel now that they are, of course, at the verge of running out of their employment. Government is banking its hopes on the U-Start policy. So let's get to it and find out what this program means for the beneficiaries. Joining me now via Zoom is Pius Enamhajide. He's Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority and also a member of the Youth Start Committee. Thank you, sir, for your time. First of all, the NABCO Secretariat is asking all personnel to take advantage of the Youth Start program. So potentially, we're looking at about 100,000 persons applying for funding under the Youth Start program. Would you say that you have funding available for all of these persons? If you can hear me, sir, I was just talking. You would have to unmute for us so we can hear the point you're making. Mr. Ajide, are you with me? You would have to, first of all, unmute so we can hear the point. Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I was just talking about the fact that... Yes, I was just talking about the fact that potentially we're having over 100,000 persons applying for that Youth Start opportunity. Do you have funding for all of them?
Well, good afternoon to you and our cherished viewers. And let me begin by congratulating our colleagues, dear brothers and sisters on the NABCO, and even those who are completing the national service. We wish them well as they prepare for the world of work. And that is why we are quite excited, because we are clear in our minds, blessed, that it is the private sector that possesses the absorptive capacity as far as the problem of youth unemployment is concerned. You know that youth unemployment is standing at some staggering 19.7%, and even youth underemployment, both time and skills, stands at some 50%, and this has been the legacy that was bequeathed due to several interventions of the past. And to deal with it, the interim measure was to bring in interventions such as NABCO as a stopgap measure to let young Ghanaians acquire the experiences of work and to prepare them to transition into full-fledged work. And the Youth Start intervention has been brought on board, promising to inject some 10 million Ghana cedis over the next 3 years with a view to create 1 million jobs. So indeed, I can assure you that we have the assurances of the managers of the public purse, the Ministry of Finance, that monies are being mobilized, will continue to be mobilized to help the development of this country by an effort and focus on youth entrepreneurship. And we are clear that for development of creation, we have to focus on the SMEs, the small, medium, and the small and medium scale enterprises, which, right, if you do the literature analysis, you will find that they contribute to employment the greatest. They contribute to our GDP the greatest, SMEs. However, there are limitations. For instance, limitation to capital was a problem. Some training is required. And the Youth Start is designed to be able to deal with those limitations and, for instance, remove those barriers. And so, yes, as and when the program is launched, and the program will be launched in due course, we shall encourage all young persons, all young persons in our country, and that includes NABCO beneficiaries and as many as are willing to get into the field of entrepreneurship and into private practice and to create jobs for themselves and for other young persons to take advantage of it, go through the processes, apply for the support, ranges to 500,000 cedis to be able to either start a small business or to scale up existing young businesses.
But Pius, the fear here is that not all NABCO personnel have had the experience of running businesses or enterprise, if you want to put it as such. So in that case, you're basically shutting the opportunity to potentially all those who were engaged in other forms of public service and not necessarily in the private sector, right?
Well, you will notice that government has been investing heavily in recruitments into the public sector. And quite in recent times, quite unprecedented number of nurses, number of teachers, number of security personnel that have been recruited has seen a tremendous jump. However, Blessed, the view that you and I should agree to is that when you do this recruitment, into the public service, you are actually seeking to develop an effective public service that can properly service a functioning private sector. The idea has never been to use public sector as a means to resolve the challenge of youth unemployment. You check, for instance, the public purse holds about some 700,000 thereabouts people on the payroll. Every year we have over 100,000 young persons leaving our institutions of higher learning and seeking to get onto the job market. And so the sustainable solution to the problem cannot definitely be recruitment into the public sector. Yes, some amount of recruitment into the public sector are necessary so that we can get a properly functioning and effective public service or public sector that can service a functional and performing private sector. So it is the private sector that we should be focusing on. And that's why I'm excited that government continues to create the enabling environment for businesses, and especially businesses owned by young people to thrive. And the Youth Start is a key intervention in that regard. 1 million jobs over the next 3 years because of the investment of 10 million Ghana cedis to remove the barriers to finances and capital, to remove the barriers to training and capacity building, and so on and so forth. So I see the challenge that we are in. The problem of unemployment is not going to move away just in a number of days or months or even years. It will take some years of consistent investment and the consistent creation of the environment. But I'm excited that what we see happening right now within this regime is an effort to put back power in hands of young themselves, to create their wealth and to create the wealth, our commonwealth.
And in fact, that there are more questions and areas for us to explore. There's also the question about when exactly the program will kickstart, the Youth Start, and how much exactly you're making available through the project.
Well, like I said, in due course, where my understanding of where we are right now is that we are completing engagements because they are going to be financial institutions that we shall be using. We need to align with them properly. There are implementing partners and agencies like my organization, the NYA, there is the YEA, there is the NEIP, there is the GEA, there is the TVET Secretariat, and then also the NABCO Secretariat itself. All of these implementing partners must understand the concept and be aligned. And again, we must do a vigorous public advocacy and education so that the young people can understand what it is that the government has brought up for their own benefit, so that there cannot be any hesitation when the program is launched. I understand that these processes are far advanced and will terminate quite soon, which will then make way for the official launch of the initiative, and then the beneficiaries can apply and get involved and receive the support that His Excellency the President and the government are envisaging for them.
Is it the case that government does not have the funding yet, and this is the time that you're taking to go through, at least try and seek for some funding before you communicate to the people of Ghana how much it is that you're allocating under this project?
Blessed, 10 million has been advertised, and we all know how much government intends to raise. But I'm sure that you understand that government raises money on a day-by-day basis. We pay our taxes regularly, and other avenues available, grants, loans, and taxes those are issues and efforts that are always in continued and perpetual existence. And so government will continue to raise money, and we cannot wait until all of the money is raised before we kickstart, you start. We shall start, and even as we move on, we raise more money, we put it back into the you start. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage all of us to begin to look at the proper interpretation and implementation, the proper implementation of the e-levy law, because the e-levy is one of the key enablers of the youth stand. And that's why I got quite scandalized when I found that people or some section of the public sought to undermine the implementation of the e-levy act and to suggest that people should not use the e-levy platform. What they seek to suggest to some of us is that they are not interested in empowering young people, and they are not interested in the Youth Start, which will create 1 million young jobs for young people. But we want to, first of all, show our gratitude to the Parliament of Ghana for the passage of the law. And we want to encourage all of us, especially the political actors, members of the opposition, NDC, and some persons in civil society who may not possess or who may still have a certain apprehension towards the e-levy. Assure them that the e-levy is, amongst others, also key to this intervention to create 1 million jobs for young people by injecting 10 million cedis. And so they should consider the young people of our country. They should do well by us. They should support the implementation of the e-levy act so that monies can be raised for the implementation of the initiative.
In all of this, we're concerned about the issue of unemployment, which is very topical here in Ghana. Of course, some stakeholders are raising fears that this has got to do with matters relating to our national security, and the fact that releasing over 100,000 personnel without finding alternatives for them could bring about some frustration in the system. So how are you going to expedite the process so that the program can just take off?
I do agree with you, Blessed, that youth unemployment are matters of grave concern. They could border on even national security. But I do disagree that plans have not been made. We just are discussing one of those plans. In fact, one of those key plans is the Youth Start initiative. So we cannot approbate and reprobate on these matters. There is a plan that the government has. That plan is to create an enabling private sector that can thrive and that can allow young persons to create wealth for themselves and to create our commonwealth, and that we have identified the challenges in that field. Key amongst those challenges is access to capital, access to training, access to funding. And so an intervention has been designed that is back-to-back, that deals with all of the challenges that we have identified in that ecosystem. And so there is a plan beyond the expedited and enhanced focus of the government on recruitment into the public sector. The road is being laid for the solution, the permanent and realistic solution to the problem, which is an empowerment of the private sector.
And in fact, just before you go, we know that this is not the first of its kind. We've seen similar modules being run in terms of empowering the youth. However, some of these programs have not been sustained. So what steps would you take to, first of all, sustain the policy and also the source of funding? How would you be running it differently from other modules that we've seen in the past?
Well, indeed, the presence of the National Youth Authority on the steering committee of the Youth Start is to ensure that the young people are not shortchanged and that the promises that have been made to us are tracked. And that is why as the mother agency responsible for coordinating youth development interventions in this country, we have been placed on the steering committee of the Youth Start, and we shall play our role and do our job by ensuring that the promises that have been made by His Excellency the President and the ministers responsible for youth development and even finance are kept. Also, let me say that the interventions that we have seen in times past have succeeded to varying degrees and extents. And I can speak proudly as a member of the current administration, for instance, on the outputs and outcomes of the NAIP, for instance. You consider that and you compare it to interventions in earlier regimes, you will notice, and if you are kind, if you are truthful and honest, you will admit that modest gains have been made in the area around the National Entrepreneurial and Innovation Plan. You go to the GEA, it used to be the NBSSI. Any honest observer today will admit that we have seen a remarkable improvement on the outputs and delivery of the GEA as compared to the SWILE NBSSI. And I can go on and on and on. And so, yes, some of the interventions have succeeded to varying degrees, but I believe that this is a more bold, robust, and visionary intervention that brings all the moving parts together and solves the problem in a holistic and timeous manner. We identify the gaps that exist, key amongst them the limitations to financing and the conditions that are attached to this financing. And that you start, there's little mention of collateral and so on and so forth. And so it becomes way easier for young Ghanaians who have the ideas, who are willing to take the risk, and who are prepared to create wealth for themselves and for our country to venture.
Pius, are you still there with us? Okay, it appears that we've lost connection briefly to Pius Hajida, who happens to be Chief Executive Officer for the National Youth Authority. In fact, Nana Techi happens to be spokesperson for the NABCO trainees or beneficiaries, if I should say. And also we do have Sherif Gali, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs. He's also joining us to help us unpack the issues of Youth Start. And as we, of course, are taking notice of that directive, the NABCO program has come to an end today. So, Sharif, I'll come to you shortly. But first of all, let's hear from Nana Techi on this. Nana, you're going out of employment from today. Regardless of how scary it may sound, government says the alternative is the Youth Start. You've heard from Pius and Hajide talk about some of the opportunities available. We'll explore all of that shortly. But Sharif, on the issue of the Youth Start policy, yes, government says they'll provide capital to the youth and also try as much as possible to take away all the bottlenecks in terms of starting up a business. But we also do know that we have data pointing to the fact that about 40% of small enterprises working in Ghana do not make profits. So it's as though it's going to be a tough time for all of these personnel who may be starting their own businesses in the coming days, correct?
Yes, that is right. And good afternoon, Blessed. And thanks for the opportunity once again. So what you said is totally true. 40% of SMEs or startups in Ghana do not make profit at all. It means that whatever they do is rather recording losses most of the times, or not being able to reach the break-even point. So the point is that you asked Pius a very brilliant question. You see, why don't we target on the existing businesses that are doing well, owned by young people? Now you are going to bring these NABCO people who literally have no experience in business, or may not even be personally interested in business, but you are pushing them because you have money. Come and take the money and then go and start a business. And they fail, because that is it. A lot of our startups, even 70% of startups fail within their first 3 years of operation. So Imagine you give this money to this over 100,000 or so graduates, and they go and run businesses and they fail. It means they are going back to be unemployed, and the pressure will be on you. So I think that we shouldn't always be swayed by numbers or be too interested in coming out with projects that will give us a name, but be interested in technically bringing programs that can be sustainable.
Yeah, but we need to state on record that it's not as though from your chamber you are totally averse to the idea of the YouStart policy.
No, for us, YouStart is something amazing. To make this point clear, we like the point because we actually advocated for a particular vehicle that will support young people. It got to a point whereby we realized that government was pulling. The initial plan of YouStart was to support young entrepreneurs, but then government were pulling graduates and students, entrepreneurs. Hey, come, we are. And now I tell you that the target or the target beneficiaries of YouStart, no matter the amount of money government has, cannot even serve all of them. And this is where we fear that at the end of the day, the original target of YouStart will not be achieved. The main goals will not be achieved. We do not have a problem as a chamber with YouStart. We support it. As a matter of fact, we even advocate for YouStart, and we talk about YouStart to our members. However, expanding the base without looking at the real entrepreneurs, you are going to create overnight entrepreneurs, and these people would fail. Let me give you a typical example. You have 1,000 young entrepreneurs that are doing well, struggling with businesses that you can really feel, see, and support. And then you have 5,000 young people who just have ideas in their head. Which one will you support first? You would want to support the 1,000 and give them some caveat and say, okay, why don't you employ 3 people? We support you to expand. Employ 3 people. At the end of the day, this 5,000 young people who do not have any business ideas will be employed and will even learn hands-on on the job. So in the next 3-5 years time, if you are giving money to these people, they already have the ideas, they can run the businesses, and that will be supportive. But you see, a lot of times, I think not this government, even the previous government, they are just interested in the numbers. Hey, we have done 10,000, we have done 100,000, where's the impact? You can do 1 million and we haven't seen any impact. So we need to re-strategize. And one thing I would like to mention is that, you see, when you have a good project but poor planning happens, and this is what is happening to NABCO. NABCO is a good project. We supported it when it came. We were saying that plan the exit plan well. Have you thought of it? How would these people be exited into the market? This wasn't done. Today, see what is happening. You ask another question that, are these people going to wait for YouStart? YouStart was supposed to be launched in March. We are in what? August, September, sorry. When is YouStart coming? And these people, when are they going to wait for you to start YouStart? So if government do not have the money, come out clear and tell these young people that we don't even have the money. I am telling you that the serious young people that are doing real businesses are even collapsing because they need support. The dollar is depreciating seriously. Everything is working against these young people. And government is not looking at that. Nothing is being said about YouStart. And we are here, NABCO are graduating, and we are so lying to them in their faces. So we need to be real. You have good projects, but the implementations are very poor. We need to re-strategize, and that is the only way to go. Bless it. Yeah.
Now, government says at least funding will be made available. 10 million is what's been earmarked for the project. For you, if there was going to be a judicious use of that funding, where should the priority areas be?
That money should be given to the young people that are already having something physical doing businesses, those that have really set up businesses for the past 2 to 3 years, and you can count on them. You can be able to be sure that they are doing something. And then the caveat will be that we have these NABCO graduates who have had hands-on training. We will support you to expand, employ 5 of them. This is what government can use to create jobs. We know your tech business or your farm business is good, and we are going to support the idea because you've already started, you've already invested your own money. You make sure it doesn't collapse. Is that not it? So this is what we are giving you. We are giving you 10,000 or 50,000, but this is what we need you to do. And this is what will make sure that these NABCO guys don't sit home and even forget whatever they've learned, but they will work under this already established.
Practically what you're telling us, and you're saying it in a very diplomatic way, that we can have 100,000 jobs in the next few months.
No, we need to be real to ourselves.
Like but if you take a look at the memo NABCO is issuing to all of its personnel, they're asking them to use the skills that have been provided during the service period to take advantage of the YouStart.
And how? That is a problem. How the skills, okay, they are taught how to work under people. A lot of them were asked to work on the private sector. Now, the question is that what of those who work as teachers? What of those who work as traffic regulated? Are you giving them money to go and start a traffic business? That is the point. And you say you are going to, we need to be real. That's what I'm saying. The best way to really make this our 10 million, if we have it, to work, is that the already established entrepreneurs support them and make sure they employ these NABCO graduates. That is the best way.
Okay, let's hear from the trainees or the beneficiaries themselves. Nana Tichi's spokesperson for the group, Sheriff, just hold on for us briefly. Nana, it's a sad day for you because ideally you were hoping that you'd be integrated into the various organizations that employed you, but that's not going to be the case. Government is asking you to take advantage of the YouStart project. Good idea?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think our situation is very pathetic. Trainees are very disgruntled and disappointed in the government. We talk of the YouStart. We have heard government say NABCO beneficiaries will be pushed into the YouStart program. But I ask myself a simple question, that you have trained, graduates in a classroom as teachers for 4 years. They have acquired a lot of skills in the classroom, mastered on their pedagogy, their methodology in teaching, classroom management, how to prepare lesson notes and all that. And then at the end of it, you come to tell them that I am migrating you, I am giving you a capital to go and establish yourself a business. So why didn't government encapsulate that idea from the beginning of the program? That should have been done. And when you look at the models critically, government didn't include an entrepreneurship model. You understand? You train a nurse for 4 years, and at the end of it all, you tell that nurse that I'm going to give you 50,000 Ghana cedis for you to go and establish your own business. We ask a very simple question, that we have acquired the skills in our corporate job environment.
Interesting.
But I am a teacher. I am a teacher by profession. Can government give me an amount that I can use to build my own school as an entrepreneur? Because that is where I was trained. You understand? And so the YouStart is not a bad policy. It is not bad, but it is not structured well. That is our problem. And so we have come to a realization that government has failed. And so he just wants to use the YouStart to cover up.
Okay, so that may be an afterthought. That may be an afterthought, as you're pointing out. But here's the alternative. And what I'm very much interested in is to find out from you as to whether or not there's been enough consultation and engagement from the point of leadership and amongst the rank and file of personnel before you exited the program. Were you giving a sense that this is what the YouStart policy is about, and these are some of the benefits that you may derive if you indeed sign up for it?
Not at all. We have not been given any information. When was the last time you heard from our CEO, Dr. Ibrahim Ayas? When was the last time you heard from him? Trainees do not know anything about this YouStart program. We agitated for our permanent job that the government promised us prior to 2020 general election, which led to the introduction of career exit pathways, which was categorized into 3 options: permanent employment in the public sector, and then further education, and that of the entrepreneurship. So when we started agitating for the actualization of the exit pathways, and then the government came out that there's going to be a program called YouStart that the NABCO beneficiaries will be enrolled. So as I speak to you, trainees do not know anything about YouStart. We do not know even the number of trainees who will be shortlisted, who will be, considered for the YouStart program. Because let me tell you that we are 65,000 currently on the scheme. Is government going to give us or going to, employ all of us under the YouStart program?
Interesting questions you're asking.
Money is government going to give us to establish our own businesses, and what is the guarantee that if I am a NABCO beneficiary and I register for the USTART program, I'll be shortlisted.
Okay, Nana, 30 seconds for you. What will be your direct message to the president? He says this is his flagship project, I mean NABCO. So in 30 seconds, what will be your message to the president?
Yes, we are begging the government to, as soon as possible, release funds to pay NABCO beneficiaries because they have worked relentlessly. They have contributed so much to the development of this country. They cannot go home on an empty stomach. That is unfair. You understand? So I am pleading with the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as a matter of agency, release funds to settle all NABCO beneficiaries so that at least it will put a smile on their faces as a reward of the sacrifices that they have made towards national development, and also consider those who can be integrated into the public sector. The teachers, for instance, they should consider them. They should negotiate with Ghana Education Service so that they will structure their recruitment in such a way that these beneficiaries who were employed under the NABCO program, Educate Ghana scheme, would be considered so that they continue their job. That is the message that I want to give.
Just curious though, how many months of arrears?
11 months now. It is pathetic.
11
months now that have not been paid.
You've not been paid for 11 months? 11
months. And so I have come to a realization that, MPP administration epitomizes deceit leadership. You understand? Because we can't fathom why on earth a graduate will work, sacrifice, work assiduously for 11 good months without salary. And stakeholders are not talking.
I think we need to verify. I think we need to verify your claims. 11 months. But I mean, you're sure about this?
Oh, when the scheme expired, you are aware of it. When the scheme expired, we were asked to remain at post pending permanent arrangement, and that was last year, 2021 October. And so we remain at post from November as at now. We've not been paid, and so approximately, it is 11 months that we've not been paid. We have, issued, submitted number of petitions, staged number of demonstrations. We have not heard from the government. And so I have come to a realization that this administration is insensitive.
Okay. Nana, thank you. Sharif, the way forward. Let's wrap up.
Sorry, the way forward for the government is number one, what he's saying is right. It's all the NABCO graduates that can be entrepreneurs, focus on supporting the already established businesses and push them to employ some of these guys. And you see, he just said it. If it is true, they are owned 11 months and you are having this money saying they should come and take it and do businesses, ask yourself, what sense does it make? You see, you are owing them. You can't even pay them. And we are having this money to say they should come and be entrepreneurs. These guys will pick them and say, you already owe us Crampo. That is the money. So easy. We need to really be realistic with our issues. We need to bring ourselves to the reality of now. Things are very hard and not everyone can be an entrepreneur. These people need their support. A teacher cannot, you can't just train somebody to teach and then all of a sudden overnight come and be an entrepreneur. This is money to go and build a school or to go and run what? That we need to be realistic. So the way forward is that government should not waste this, their 10 million or 10 billion or whatever money they call it. They should really look into the established entrepreneurs that are already doing well, employ them, give them a caveat to employ these guys. That is the best way to go.
Okay, then. Let's see what the finance minister will do in the coming days. I'm grateful, Sharif Gali, also to you, Nana Techi, for your time here on The Pulse. In March.